commercial-free Catholic charismatic channel.
He's strengthening the faith of so many people.
To promote the gift of church teaching, dedicated for the new evangelization.
God's blessings on your work. May God bless and prosper you.
Shalom World, God's own channel.
Again, welcome to one and all joining us, howsoever you are joining us for this evening public engagement of the Holy Father, Pope Francis, in Paraguay, the tail end again of the Holy Father's courtesy call on President and the meeting with civil authorities. But a very special welcome and thanks to our partners in radio and television, making it possible for you to be with us this evening. EWTN TV, Net TV, Telecare TV, and Shalom World TV. Thanks to one and all, and thank you all once again for being with us, howsoever you're joining us. Evening has fallen. There's been rain off and on throughout the day in Asunción.
Señoras, señores, invitados especiales, y aplaudimos la presencia de su santidad, el Papa Francisco, que ingresa a este recinto para ser parte de este encuentro con las autoridades nacionales e invitados especiales.
But the weather seemed to hold off as the Holy Father, with the President, made his way across the courtyard to the venue. Within the presidential palace, the Holy Father pausing now for an exchange of greetings. I did not see with whom, but it seemed to be someone of the Holy Father's acquaintance. And we'll see if we can get some information for you about who that might have been.
Su Santidad el Papa Francisco, que de esta forma ingresa a este recinto para...
But I began to say earlier that we've seen some constants, some themes, some motifs to this Latin American visit running through the first two countries that the Holy Father visited, Ecuador and then on to Bolivia, and that the first and the primary and the overarching theme is that of a pilgrimage and witness to the joy of the gospel. The Holy Father is not omitted to touch on areas of general social import, his discourse to the World Meeting of Popular Movements, this umbrella organization that has been through the offices of the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace and the Pontifical Academy for Social Sciences, designed to facilitate conversation and coordination, connection among groups of marginalized, disenfranchised, disadvantaged people from various sectors of society at risk for various reasons, to bring them together, to share experience and their common concerns. It was a discourse that the Holy Father delivered in its entirety, and that made and continues to make headlines and will give us food for thought, I think, for many days and weeks to come. Even there, however, where the Holy Father was touching on matters interesting the commonweal, if I could put it that way, he was very clear that the primary role of the Church is to be a moral voice and a voice of hope and of witness, and that Christians are called to be leaven in society, and that the contribution that the Church has to make to the common good is essentially the gospel, and that all of her actions are rooted in and ordered to the upbuilding of the kingdom of God.
Señoras y señores, a continuación, las palabras del excelentísimo señor Horacio Cartes, presidente de la República del Paraguay.
And now we are to hear an allocution from the president of Paraguay, Horacio Cartes.
Santidad, amado Papa Francisco, bienvenido al Paraguay.
Your Holiness, beloved Pope Francis, welcome. Our hearts are filled with joy at having you among us. The blessing of your visit, your pastoral visit, covers us with a mantle of faith and hope, and you honor us. Your presence is a symbol of love and joy, and in this spirit, the Paraguayan people shall live these 3 glorious days in its history. And it is especially moving to us, significant to us, when we hear you speak of the Paraguayan woman. And you knew when you speak of the difficult periods in our history, especially the period after the, during and after the War of the Triple Alliance, the war that took place in the 1860s, ending, if memory serves, in 1870, in which the male population of Paraguay was essentially wiped out, and the entire rebuilding of the country fell on the shoulders of the women of the country.
Especialmente a los más humildes, a los que más sufren angustias, marginamiento y necesidades.
The concern of the Holy Father, now the focus of the President's remarks, the concern of the Holy Father on the poor, the marginalized, the least, the weakest.
Han calado en mí tan hondo esas palabras que se han constituido en el emblema de mi servicio. La gente en primer lugar, la lucha frontal contra la pobreza y la marginación. Procuramos honrar a Dios, sintiendo como nuestra la necesidad del prójimo. Y nos empeñamos
We try to make our own the mission of creating the conditions for genuine achievement of the common good, to care for the marginalized, to raise people up.
Solvencia moral y ética vivencial se aleja de Dios. Ante esto, vemos como
And the man who seeks to elude his responsibilities steps out of the path of God.
Agradecemos por ello su presencia en el Paraguay, su visión y sus palabras.
We thank you, Holy Father, for your visit,
Necesito presentarle al Paraguay.
and we await
Sabe mucha de nuestra heroica nación. Conoce de nuestros
your words
sueños y esperanzas,
of encouragement,
dificultades e infortunios. Su afecto por nuestra patria
and we know that you, Holy Father, have no need to be introduced to Paraguay, knowing her struggles and her history so well, her people.
a nuestros hermanos paraguayos durante su misión episcopal en Buenos Aires.
In fact, the Holy Father, when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires and during his whole life in Argentina, really got to know many Paraguayans very well, and has always had a high esteem for the Paraguayan people and a great deal of affection.
El Papa Juan Pablo II, hoy San Juan Pablo II, canonizó en Iguazú al primer santo paraguayo, San
The President recalling now
Cruz y sus compañeros mártires. En la línea de eso
the canonization of San Roque Gonzalez and his companions during the Pope Saint John Paul II in 1988 during his visit.
con entusiasmo su llamado urgente a preservar el planeta. El mensaje de su santidad coincide con los postulados centrales.
We've received in these days also your message about the safeguarding of creation, and we have tried to take these to heart.
Laudato Si se erige en monumento contra la indiferencia sobre la deuda ecológica del desarrollo.
Thinking especially of the Guarani people.
Si la fórmula de desarrollo sostenible en armonía con el ecosistema no encabeza y condiciona el temario del diálogo global, como sugiere
The need to work
la apuesta al desarrollo sostenible permanece.
now for a kind of development that is in harmony with the ecosystem,
Coincidimos con su santidad en que además de la preservación
and the need to assure that this development reaches also those who are most in need of it. Otherwise, it is senseless.
este nuevo modelo de desarrollo
We need to find solutions to poverty.
la diferencia entre las naciones que lo incorporan y las que no
And
cada vez más notoria. Con
the work to discover the right model
por el desarrollo en
for development can no longer wait.
inclusivo, sensible a los sectores más desfavorecidos y consciente que el atractivo demográfico del Paraguay de hoy puede convertirse en el flagelo del mañana si no generamos cuanto antes las oportunidades.
The correct model of social development must take into account
Es extraordinario, pero posible. Y ante tamaño
the weakest and
confieso mi
the most vulnerable.
del amor civil y político del Santo Padre. En este amor, la llama que nos inspira a servir al Paraguay. El mismo amor que Jesús reivindicara para el prójimo como fundamento de la nueva alianza.
And
Y que en su
this is the love which inspires us to serve Paraguay.
acción política. Santidad, su magisterio,
Your Holiness,
que Dios es dueño
your magisterium teaches us
somos responsables de nuestros momentos. Quiero cerrar estas palabras recordando aquellas que con tanta generosidad y sabiduría sentenció su santidad el primer día de su
that
pontificado. Nunca olvidemos que el verdadero poder es el servicio.
our purpose is to serve
Con humildad,
as
agradezco
leaders
la bendición de
our
su visita.
peoples.
Y con toda la sinceridad de mi corazón, le aseguro que uno de los más
I thank you
honores de mi vida
for your visit,
es recibir en mi patria al vicario de Cristo, al querido Papa Francisco. Bienvenidos
and I can tell you that it is the great honor of my life to receive you, the Vicar of Christ.
Fueron las palabras del excelentísimo señor Horacio Cartes, presidente de la República
Excuse me.
de Paraguay.
We have now the
Señoras y señores, a continuación el mensaje del Santo Padre. Papa
discourse of Pope Francis, who rises from his chair and makes his way to the podium.
Señor Presidente, autoridades de la República, miembros del cuerpo diplomático, señoras, señores. Saludo cordialmente a Vuestra Excelencia, señor Presidente de la República, y le agradezco las diferentes palabras de bienvenida y de afecto que me ha dirigido, en nombre también del Gobierno, de las altas magistraturas del Estado y del querido pueblo paraguayo. Saludo también a los distinguidos miembros del cuerpo diplomático y a través de ellos hago llegar mis sentimientos de respeto y aprecio a su
I offer cordial greetings to you, Mr. President, and I thank you for your respectful and affectionate words of welcome in the name of the government, the civil authorities, and the beloved Paraguayan people. I also greet the distinguished members of the diplomatic corps, and through them, I express my respect and esteem to the countries they represent.
Paraguay es conocido como el corazón de América y no solo por la posición geográfica.
A particular word of thanks is due to all those individuals and institutions which worked so hard to prepare this visit and to make me feel at home. It is not hard to feel at home in so welcoming a land. Paraguay is known as the heart of America, not only because of its geographic location, but also because of the warmth of its hospitality and the friendliness of her people.
Pero es admirable el tesón y el espíritu de superación del pueblo paraguayo para rehacerse ante tanta adversidad.
From the first days of the country's independence to recent times, Paraguay has known the terrible sufferings brought on by war, fratricidal conflict, lack of freedom, and contempt for human rights. How much suffering and death! Yet the Paraguayan people have also shown an admirable spirit of perseverance in surmounting adversities and in working to build a prosperous and peaceful nation. Here in the garden of this palace, which has witnessed so much of the country's history, from the time when it was no more than a riverbank used by the Guarani until the present day, I wish to pay tribute to the many ordinary Paraguayan people whose names are not written in history books, but who have been and continue to be the real protagonists in the life of your nation.
De modo especial, esa guerra inicua que llegó a destruir.
And I would also like to acknowledge with profound admiration the role played by the women of Paraguay in those dramatic historical moments. As mothers, wives, and widows, they shouldered the heaviest burdens. They found a way to move their families and their country forward.
Han sabido sacar adelante a sus familias y a su país, infundiendo en las nuevas generaciones la esperanza en un mañana mejor. Dios bendiga a la mujer paraguaya.
Instilling in new generations the hope of a better tomorrow.
Un pueblo que olvida su pasado, su historia, sus raíces, no tiene futuro. Es un pueblo seco. La memoria asentada firmemente sobre la justicia, alejada de sentimientos de venganza y de odio, transforma el pasado en
A people which forgets its own past, its history and its roots, has no future.
haciéndonos conscientes de la tragedia
Memory, if it is firmly based on justice and rejects hatred and all desire for revenge, makes the past a source of inspiration for the building of a future of serene
en la
coexistence.
que todos participamos, evitando gestos arrogantes.
It also makes us realize the tragedy and pointlessness of war. Let there be an end to wars between brothers. Let us always build peace, a peace which grows stronger day by day, a peace which makes itself felt in everyday life.
Paraguay se está comprometiendo en la construcción de un proyecto
A peace to which each person contributes by seeking to avoid signs of arrogance, hurtful words, contemptuousness, and instead by working to foster understanding, dialogue, and cooperation. For some years now, Paraguay has sought to build a solid and stable democracy. It is proper to recognize with satisfaction progress made in this direction, thanks to the efforts of everyone, even amid great difficulties and uncertainties. I encourage you to continue working to strengthen the democratic structures and institutions so that they can respond to the legitimate aspirations of your nation's people.
participativa y pluralista, basada en la promoción y respeto de los derechos humanos.
The form of government adopted by your Constitution, a representative, participative, and pluralistic democracy based on the promotion of and respect for human rights, must banish the temptation to be satisfied with a purely formal democracy, one which, as Aparecida put it, the Aparecida document, the document of the bishops' conferences, the umbrella group of the bishops' conferences of Latin America, in which the then Archbishop of Buenos Aires, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, had a hand in writing. A representative, participative, and pluralistic democracy based on the promotion of respect, the promotion of and respect for human rights must banish the temptation to be satisfied with a purely formal democracy, one which is content with being founded on fair election procedures. In every sector of society, but above all in public service, there is a need to reaffirm that dialogue is the best means of promoting the common good, on the basis of a culture of encounter, respect, and acknowledgement of the legitimate differences and opinions of others. In the effort to overcome a spirit of constant conflict, convictions born of ideology or partisan interest should blend advantageously with the love of country and its people. That love must be the incentive to increased administrative transparency and unceasing efforts to combat corruption.
Y la sanidad. Que no cese ese esfuerzo de todos los actores sociales hasta que no haya más niños sin acceso a la educación, familias sin hogar, obreros sin trabajo digno, campesinos sin tierra.
Dear friends, in the desire to serve and promote the common good, the poor and needy have to be given priority of place. Paraguay has done much to advance along the path of economic growth. Important steps have been taken in the areas of education and healthcare. May all social groups work to ensure that there will never again be children without access to schooling, families without homes, workers without dignified employment, small farmers without land to cultivate, or campesinos forced to leave their lands for an uncertain future.
La dignidad integral de la persona, especialmente la persona más vulnerable e indefensa. Señor Presidente, queridos amigos,
an economic development which fails to take into account the weakest and underprivileged is not an authentic development. Economic progress must be measured by the integral dignity of the human person, especially the most vulnerable and helpless. Mr. President, dear friends, in the name of my brothers, the bishops of Paraguay, I also wish to assure you of the commitment and cooperation of the Catholic Church in the common effort to build a just and inclusive society where each person can live in peace and harmony. All of us, including the Church's pastors, are called to be concerned with building a better world. Our sure faith in God, who willed to become man, to live among us and to share our lot, urges us to press forward. Christ opens up to us the path of mercy, which, founded on justice, goes beyond it to inspire works of charity, so that no one will remain on the fringes of this great family which is Paraguay, a land you love and which you wish to serve. With great joy that I have come to this country consecrated to the Virgin of Cacupé, and I would like to recall my brother of the Diocese of Buenos Aires, who takes care of the parish dedicated to Our Lady of Cacupé. I invoke the Lord's blessings on each of you, your families, and all the beloved people of Paraguay. May this country be fruitful as symbolized by the passiflora flower of Our Lady's mantle. And may the national colors which decorate her image draw all the Paraguayan people to embrace the Mother of Cacupé. Thank you very much.
Señoras y señores, el mensaje al pueblo paraguayo del Santo Padre, el Papa Francisco.
And for those of you just joining us, this is Vatican Radio's live English language coverage of the encounter of Pope Francis with the civil authorities of Paraguay in the presence of the president, who spoke on behalf of the government and offered the official welcome of his people to the Holy Father, Horacio Cartes. Pope Francis then delivered his remarks, which once again placed his visit in the key of witnessing to the truth and the joy of the gospel, the concern for the common good which is inherent to those who have heard the gospel and to the work of the church. Precisely insofar as the upbuilding of the kingdom of God is never contrary to or in tension with the authentic common good of every people.
Fotografías, detalles y objetos de artes originales de la época. Tomas en los principales museos y templos de nuestro país, como Trinidad, Jesús, Santa Rosa, San Ignacio, Santa María de Fe, San Cosme y Damián, así también de colecciones particulares. El Santo Padre tendrá la oportunidad de escuchar música original del tiempo de las misiones, rescatadas y
And the Holy Father is now making his way from the venue prepared for President Cartes' allocution and his own remarks to the civil authorities. And Pope Francis is being greeted now by a woman in costume. Bearing gifts, what appear to be loaves of bread. And the Holy Father offering his blessing. To still others, as we these are women in native costume presenting the Holy Father with welcome gifts, mostly the fruits of the land and artisanal craft work, a statue now. A small carved statue. And the gifts and the greetings now having come to a conclusion, Pope Francis continues along his way. Night has fallen at the presidential palace in Asunción, Paraguay, where just a short while ago Pope Francis arrived to pay a courtesy call on President Horacio Cartes. Who remains at the Holy Father's side. Pope Francis and the President now having taken their seat, and we listen to music from the epoch of the Jesuit reductions, the great missionary establishments in Latin America that for so many years served with special concern the indigenous populations. And after this musical execution, the Holy Father makes his way, congratulating the conductor of the orchestra. Of this musical program. It was entitled La Voz de Dios en las Selvas del Paraguay, the voice of God in the forests of Paraguay. We heard some pieces, obviously in the Baroque style, that belong to the cultural heritage of the Jesuit reductions, the great missionary outposts throughout the wilds of Latin America, many of which were located in modern-day Paraguay. The orchestra, the Orquestra Filomúsica de Asunción, and the Holy Spirit Choir, directed by Maestro Luis Saran. And we heard a medley, almost, one could say, which included pieces by Domenico Zipoli, certain anonymous authors with arrangements there, and the great Ennio Morricone. Was the incipit in Latin at the beginning to the hours, to the liturgy of the hours. The Salve Regina at the end, and bits of psalms and other prayers and popular devotions in the middle. A remarkable execution and a reminder of the encounter of faith and culture.